one thing that sticks out, and I always kept this with me throughout my whole career. Wherever you go, doesn't matter who you are or what you've done, you're not guaranteed to play. You know what? I was just one of them kids who loved football. Like, I think about my kids now and whether they love football as much as I did, and probably not. I mean, times have changed, of course. There's all kinds of things they can do now, which we couldn't do when we were younger. You know, we used to go out and have a ball, and that was it. And so I remember from a young age always thinking I need to work hard. And you know, I was lucky enough to come through a good academy, but at the same time, there was still I felt a lot of pressure. You know, we used to get like 2 year sort of deals where you, at 12s, 14s, 16s, and I remember all the time coming up to the end of the 2 years thinking, they're going to sign me on again, and I need to work hard, I need to improve on this. So I was pretty young when I realised that I had to work hard.
A lot of people were probably expecting that your journey in youth football was, you know, you just went step by step, straight away successful. You're talking there about feeling some sort of pressure as the end of these 2 year deals came along. Were the coaches giving you feedback as in that made you feel like you were successful at that age, or did you question it?
Yeah, listen, I'm the first to admit I was lucky to come through a good academy at Arsenal. You know, we had everything. We had the facilities. We were able to go abroad from a young age to play against the best teams, you know, Barcelona, Juve, teams like that. And so, I mean, listen, I started at Luton Town, and at 9 years old, I went to Arsenal and had the best facilities. So yeah, but the coaches being as good as they were, I still put pressure on myself because, you know, I knew where I wanted to go. I used to, especially when I got a little bit older, you know, like 14, 15, and I'm looking at the first team, and Fabregas played when he was 16. So that was something that I just wanted to do, and I felt like I could do it, and I was given the best opportunity because of the facilities and the coaches and everything. But at the same time, I always put pressure on myself.
You mentioned your dad telling you that he saw something in you that was, you know, a bit better than the other guys that you were playing against. Did the coaches make you feel that way as well, or were you just, you know, you just were there and you felt good and that was that?
No, the coaches never made me feel like that, and to be honest, my dad didn't make me feel like that when I was at that age. It's only since getting older and having conversations with him, and you know, probably since I've had kids, and you know, watching them and thinking, and watching them against other boys their age and thinking, have they got something different? And that's when my dad said, no, I could tell at 5 or 6 that you had something different. But the coaches at Arsenal never really made me feel like that. I mean, growing up, I used to play up a lot, and you know, there could be 1 or 2 from my age group that played up, and if I think about it now, then probably, yeah, I was pushed a little bit more than maybe some others. But you know, at the time, I just thought that, you know, they need a few numbers, and I'm one of them going up. And so no, the coaches never really made me feel any different to anyone else.
I've heard you speak about your relationship with your parents, and that they didn't really put any pressure on you to play when you were a kid, and that sort of came from within you. But to see Fabregas playing at 16 years old, and for that to be an ambition of yours, especially now where you watch 16-year-olds playing football and they're a long way away from being in a first team environment, how did you manage to build that opinion or that ambition from such a young age to want to do that?
I just had that drive in me. You know, I moved into digs when I was 14, so all I knew was being around, you know, my teammates, and you know, at that age, especially at Arsenal, it would be an age where they'd get a lot of players in from abroad. You know, the best players. We got a midfielder from Barcelona who was my age. We had another midfielder from Italy who was my age, and I was just always thinking, I need to be better than them because they've been brought in, and that's the way that football is. You know that, like, if someone gets brought in for a bit of money, then they could be pushed a little bit more than you. So I had that in me from a young age to think, no, I need to be better than him whenever I went on the pitch. And to be fair, I have to be thankful to the coaching staff at at Arsenal, and the manager in Arsene Wenger, he saw something in me, and he pushed me from a young age and gave me that opportunity. You know, I spoke about that before. Having that opportunity is key. I mean, my first real season in the first team came because there was 6 or 7 midfielders injured in the first game, and then when you get the opportunity, you have to take it. But without them injuries, I probably wouldn't have got that start. It was at Anfield away. I definitely wouldn't have got that start, and I mean, it was down to me to take the opportunity, but you have to be given that chance first.
Being involved in first team training sessions at 15 is pretty unique, especially at that sort of level. Did that change your approach to what you were doing at the time? Do you remember what you were doing in training on a daily basis? Did that experience change that?
Well, I remember there being a lot of pressure when, because you could come in one morning and the youth team manager will say to you, the first team needs you today. And I remember feeling a lot of pressure. And I remember also, I wasn't the only one who would go over there, and some players would go over there and crumble, and then they wouldn't be asked to go back over for 6 months. So, there was players of a similar ability to me, but I think I was better at taking my opportunity when it came, whether that be in training and, making an impression, not just going over there and thinking, right, I need to get through this, actually making an impression and, making sure the manager goes away and thinks, Jack, he's good enough. He might be 15, but he's not that far away.
Young kids probably obviously aspire when they're in the youth team to train and to be involved with the first team, but we all know what it's like when you're actually told you're going to be involved. You get nervous, it's you feel anxious. What do you think it is about you and for obviously for young kids listening to this that allowed you to deal with that better than like you say some of the other people that went over there and crumbled?
Yeah, I think from a young age, I understood that once your opportunity came, you had to take it, and of course that comes with some fear. And I think the biggest thing is fear. I think it's fear of failure from a young age. When you go over there and you don't want to make mistakes, and you keep telling yourself don't make mistakes, and then you make mistakes. And I was able to block that out and just focus on myself and why I'm actually there. I worked my way through the academy. I deserve to be there. There was players, as I said, of a similar ability next to me who were there, so we all deserved to be there, but you had to make an impression on the manager.
You've mentioned it a little bit already, but young players now have loads of stuff that they can do, whether it be sit on the PlayStation and watch the internet. But for you, when you were growing up, football was everything to you. How did you build your philosophy on football? And by that, I mean that you are sort of a modern day player, way beyond your time. You played football that people hadn't really seen before. How did you manage from a young age to build that perception of how you wanted to play?
Yeah, I think a lot of it came natural. And what I mean by that is I always had a natural ability with the ball, and that came from a very young age. I remember playing school football at 7 or 8, and I could dribble with the ball better than anyone else. Also, I think being at a club like Arsenal, when Arsenal came in, he obviously changed the whole culture of the club. He wanted to play total football, play out from the back at a time when that weren't really, no one ever did that really, and that went all the way through the academy. The coaches and the academy director were all briefed on how we wanted to play, and it was always with the ball, always technical, always everything we did from under 10s to under 16s was with the ball, and I suppose I just embraced that and used it as my strength, because that was one of my strengths with the ball. I weren't the biggest, I weren't the quickest, but I could always make space with the ball. My first touch was always good, and I just always took that on with me if I was training with the 18s or the first team. I always remember thinking, right, concentrate on your strengths, show your strengths, and make an impression on the manager.
Did you have a preferred position at that age?
When I was coming through the academy, I was actually a winger. Yeah, I was a left winger. Actually played left back as well. I remember the head of the academy at the time was Liam Brady, and he was obviously a similar player to me. And he said to me once, I think I was about 13 or 14, we went to a tournament in Holland. he said, I want you to play left back. And I was like, I played there. Obviously didn't do very well because they moved me back into midfield. But and then when I got into the 18s, into the youth team, the under 18s, I was only like 15. We played a diamond, and I was playing top of the diamond. So I think Arsenal and the whole club always saw me as almost like a number 10 off the striker. I used to have not arguments but disagreements with the manager saying I want to play deeper, and he would always say that he sees me as a number 10. And to be honest with you, I did enjoy playing as a number 10. I think as I've got a little bit older, and I think as well that role of the number 10 has changed. You don't really see now, like especially in England, like an Ozil or someone like that who just wants the ball to feet. That role's changed. You have to run behind probably more times than you're coming to feet. So I think as it's changed, I've found myself more comfortable playing deeper.
You're obviously talking about there that a left back and left midfield. People often who are attacking players end up in defence, and the opposite way round. What for kids at that age who are struggling to find a position or to see how they can be effective on a match day in a certain position, what advice would you give them as to how to find out?
I think it's important when you're growing up not to. Every player, everyone listening to this will always think that they know where they want to play and where they should be playing. But I think, especially when you're really young, growing up as a kid, you should try and embrace every single position. And why I say that is because if and when you go on to play men's football, you get into a first team, if the manager asks you to play somewhere, you have to do it. And that might be your opportunity. Like I said, when your opportunity comes, you have to take it. So I think you have to know a little bit. I mean, listen, if you're left-footed, then and you think you should play midfield, I don't think you should be ruling out a left-back role or a left wing, because that might be your opportunity to get into the team and keep your place in the team. And when it comes, you have to take it.